Jim Morningstar, thank you so much. It is an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited to be sitting down with you now, and we're going to be talking about some very special breath today. We're going to be
I had volunteered to be Leonard's co-director of the one-year seminar community program. It's called Theta International. And what I did in that was to help set up schedules for travel for breathwork teachers to go from on the East Coast. They would go from New Jersey to New York to Boston, and make it easy for teachers to travel, because in some communities, the one-year seminar might consist of 6 people. In another community, there was 30 people. So it was quite varied, but Leonard was clear. He wanted everyone to get the teachings and everyone to be able to get breath work if they were called to do it. And so as teachers, we would travel from city to city. Sometimes we'd make money. Sometimes we'd just make our plane fare. But we set up circuits. I helped do this, to set up circuits and stay in connection with organizers in various cities. And so they would organize the one-year seminar meetings to be in conjunction with those in other cities, so that a teacher could on one weekend be in New York and the next weekend be in Boston, and so on. So this was work that I had done, and then got the tap on the shoulder. Jim, it's time for you now. Instead of inviting all of the teachers to Milwaukee, as you have been doing, it's time for you to lead a one-year seminar yourself and lead it open to teachings of other. And I remember I was in the basement doing a sanding project on a dining room table, and all of a sudden it was like, boom, I've got to teach. And there was an old crumpled up paper bag and a stub of a pencil. And I sat down and I wrote down 12 seminars. And this is what I was teaching the next year, or what I thought I was going to be teaching the next year. Because being inspired, being driven, and having the spirit, I put the word out to everyone. Family, friends, community, all of my clients, everyone, about the new one-year seminar program that I was teaching. Well, one person showed up, and this was a man that I had worked with who had schizophrenia at the county hospital. He knew nothing about what this was about, but he thought I was a nice guy, and so he just came to support me. Again, gut check time. Ooh, this is the response I get for putting myself out like this in the world? Do I really want to do this? Is it time to hang up the spurs? Just go back to inviting other teachers to come in? Breathe with it, Jim. Breathe with it. No. Get back on the horse. Put it out with your heart, not just with your head. Invite people in to the family of spirit. The next year, full program. And for 33 years then, it was the beginning of the School of Spiritual Psychology, which I later called the School of Integrative Psychology, because it integrated mind, body, and spirit. And what started out as a one-year seminar program, meeting once a month, turned into a full school program, where in the first year of the school, we met 7 times a month for a year. We learned all sorts of things on the spiritual, intellectual, emotional path. We bonded together. At the end of that first year of program, the students said, we don't want to quit. Let's do it again. And I said, no. To do it again would be to imply you didn't get it the first time. So we'll create a second year. First year was the personal integration program. Now the second year is a spiritual leadership program. Because it's no longer about learning things and incorporating themselves. Now you have to be a spiritual leader. You have to take this into your world. So a whole new curriculum came up about spiritual leadership, the second year of the school. Well, same thing happened after that. Well, no, we're just getting cranky. We don't want to stop. We want to keep going. I said, okay, one more year, that's it, which was the graduate apprentice program. Now that you're a spiritual leader, you have to be an apprentice to going out and creating spiritual community yourself. So what evolved was a 3-year program of the School of Spiritual Psychology. Again, became the School of Integrative Psychology, and was combined with Breathwork and a Breathwork training program, which started in 1990, went for 33 years. And this was spreading not just here in Milwaukee, this was spreading around the world. There was an ad that I read someplace in 1996, and it said, Global Inspiration Conference. What's that? Well, what had sprung up again was a yearly meeting of breathworkers from around the world. I said, I'm going. Again, family, and off we go. This is before we had children. And so it was Joan and I and friends in our Milwaukee community. We got on the airplane and went to Italy, Sardinia, to be exact, where Robin Lowley was hosting the 3rd International Global Inspiration Conference. Heaven. This is with breathworkers from around the world, people who didn't even speak the same language, but we had translators, and we shared the joy and the ecstatic experience of breathwork. It was relatively chaotic, and no one took notes about anything. Everyone was just so, and I thought, well, wait a minute, there's some great stuff here. We got to write some of this down. So I became this self-appointed scribe for some of the decisions that were being made about how to promote breathwork and how to support one another in this process. And national coordinators were being designated to represent the spread of breathwork in the various countries. Well, who are they? How are they elected? What do you know? So I began taking notes on all this stuff, and every year thereafter, I would spend my whole time with the organization of the International Breathwork Foundation, as it was called, that sponsored the Global Inspiration Conferences. And again, then finally I said, all this stuff is happening in Europe. That's the only place that these conferences have been. How about the Western Hemisphere? Let's bring it to the United States. So I made a proposal. I said, all right, I am the national coordinator for the United States. I would like to host the Global Inspiration Conference of 2001 in the United States. All right, well, then I had to follow the rules. You know, I had to get a venue. And at that time, this was, you got to understand, this was an offshoot of the days of the 70s and the 80s. And so breathwork had graduated from being just things done in water Leonard thought it was originally the water that was doing it. And then, I don't know, someone's hot tub broke down or whatever. And they decided, oh, we can do this on land. And so it was the breath that was actually doing it. It wasn't the water. And so, as Leonard said, it became a little less esoteric because all of the wet breath work was without clothes in a hot tub with a snorkel. And now people could actually breathe on dry land with their clothes on and experience the ecstasy of breath releases, of letting go of the holding patterns in the body. Boom. And so it had jump-started, again, breathwork around the world. And the International Breathwork Foundation, started by Gunnel René and Bo Wallström, had the first Global Inspiration Conference in Sweden. And then the next one was in Poland. And I jumped on board on the third one, which was in Italy, and proposed then that it be brought to the United States. Well, one of the requirements at the time was that you had to have nude breath work and wine served at every meal. Imagine in the Midwest United States, I'd say, okay, we're going to have an international convention. Oh, we're interested. Oh, yes, we're bringing people from around the world. Oh, that's great. It's great. And we need nude breath work. And well, we'll have to talk to our board about this. We'll get back to you. So, finally, I did find a ski lodge that accepted those things as long as we did the nude stuff up on a hill away from it. But as we found out, none of that stuff was necessary. And when you're in, we say, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. Well, when you're in the United States, do as the people in the United States do. So the customs changed. And in fact, I started introducing, bringing many leaders, not just a couple, but as many leaders as I could discover in the world who were top trainers of breathwork, including Leonard Orr. I gave an invitation to come to the conference here in Wisconsin, and they all accepted. What? Yeah. So they weren't being paid to come. They all wanted to be here. So this totally amazed me. I said, the Spirit is running this show, not me. Spirit is calling these people in. So it was a magnificent conference. And at that conference, we decided it's time to start bringing together the elders, as it were, people who have been doing this for a while, and look at what are ethics and what are standards in the world of breath work. Because we went from it's like a coterie of just a certain special people that got one another's signature to the Wild West. Anyone can do anything in any way. But wait a minute, this was in some places was getting not a good reputation. So maybe it would be good for us to decide what would be standards, what would be things that for breathwork training, and what would be ethics. We've got 22 schools together to agree to this. And Jessica Dibb agreed to be co-director with me. And we had a board of a number of other veteran breathworkers in the world. And we had yearly meetings, generally at Jessica Dibb's Inspiration Community in Baltimore. And it started to set a framework for training. And it didn't mean that, oh, you couldn't do breathwork if you didn't agree to ethics and training standards. It just meant that we're going to make this a profession now, because a profession is an agreement between a group of practitioners and the general public that people who are certified by this group have had this kind of training and subscribe to this kind of ethics. And if they have a breach of ethics, we take care of that. And they can no longer be part of or advertise themselves as part of that. And this is what the medical profession does, the legal profession. Anything that is going to establish itself and get the trust of the public has to self-monitor. So this is what we've been doing since 2001. It started out as an International Breathwork Training Alliance. And then after a number of years, we called it the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance. Taking international, it's not nations, it's the globe that's allying together. Now, meanwhile, again, there were inveterate teachers, people who actually were at that conference in 2001, like Dan Brule and Judith Kravitz, Sandra Ray. She wasn't at that particular conference. And because she couldn't be there, she sent Jessica Dibb. And so Jessica really caught fire with this. And because she had the same dream in her community, she knew that it was time to get a consensus, consortium, as it were, of schools that were serious about professional training. And so these people were traveling around the world, setting up training centers, doing trainings in every country that, even countries that didn't speak English as a national language. They would get interpreters. I've been in those situations, and with interpreters, you can actually, because the universal language is the breath. So you can use linguistic interpreters to deal with the mind. It is the language of the breath that does the healing. So we've been doing this Global Professional Breathwork Alliance since 2001, and we're now on the verge of really expanding this. There's a growth spurt that's coming because breathwork is taking off in the world. It is just Judith Kravitz, for example, I think has training centers in over 50 countries around the world. So we need to come together to better organize and spread the word of what professional breathwork can mean for humanity. So we're doing this now. We have a new executive committee besides Jessica and myself. It's Anthony Avignano, Ann Harrison, and Viola Edwards. And now we're expanding the board to include many other representatives of breathwork schools as well as breathwork practitioners. So again, we're at one of those growth spurt points. And COVID and the pandemic has done, it underlined the need for this. It's underlined the need to spread healing and the natural healing energy that every human being has, that Leonard said was your credential. So if you've got a belly button, you can be a healer. It's time for us to spread this on a greater scale and have more people involved. Now, I, in my own style, inaugurated therapeutic breathwork. And therapeutic breathwork involves the use of the bioenergetic body themes, which I've translated into 6 major themes. Alexander Lowen called them body types, but we're not typing people. We're looking at the themes that they can carry on due to trauma at 6 major stages of their life. Leonard Orr, I believe, was exemplifying the first body theme, which is psychic sensitive. Tremendous brilliance. And in integrating this, he brought realms of consciousness to the world. But he also was very sensitive himself and had to spend a lot of time alone, a lot of time doing spiritual purification, and he eschewed group breath work. He did not like group breath work. Again, his boundary, he would pick up what he called psychic sludge. And so what I developed in therapeutic breath work was knowing what your body theme is, getting and integrating the strengths of it, but being able to deal with the weaknesses of that body theme. And that's what we use in breathwork now, because each of these 6 stages, people breathe differently. And if we know what stage they had a trauma in, or they have holding patterns in, we can tailor the breath and the movement and expression to help them deal with that particular stage and bring the gifts of that stage to life, which is what Leonard did. He brought the gifts of psychic sensitivity to breathwork. So I have created that school of therapeutic breathwork, and so many other teachers have brought their specialties into their schools. And now we're bringing these schools together so that a person can learn some things in one school and some things in another school. It's time for us to bring that sense of cooperation in rather than different silos teaching one brand. We have 80 some certified practitioners now through the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance and some 25 schools. But in order to be a certified school, you've got to be sure that there's more than just one brand of breathwork being taught so that your students are exposed to different ways. And as I said, we're all working for the same teacher, which is the spirit of breath. So Mike gave me this wonderful stage to present all of this on, which I'm so grateful for. And he also said that I could tell people about recent things that are happening in our school, which is something that's relatively new that I've developed over the past several years, which is online and in-person breathwork training combined. And I've done online and in-person things for evenings or day long, but this is an intensive training that we're doing the 16th through the 20th of August this year, which is a hybrid, which there will be people from the virtual world who will be there getting virtual training by teachers working with them, as well as teachers in the space of a beautiful, beautiful retreat center, which we have completely to ourselves. And so the energy of bringing these two worlds together has magnified, I would say exponentially increased the energy available for people during this training. So I invite you all to have contact with us at transformationsusa.com, transformations with an S, USA.com. And also look at the years of trainings that I have recorded and edited and are available for people to take at their own rate and at their own pace, which is also can be incorporated into being in our part of our certification program. In other words, you can take in-person things and you can take some online things and virtual classes. So there's many ways to learn because there's also many ways to teach this. And people are learning. Some of the people who have been doing in-person breathwork for years is, oh, we can't do this online stuff. Oh, this is not real. This is not real. Now, what's real is essential connection. And what we've discovered, and what Mike here is promoting, is that we can connect essentially with one another, whether it's through the internet or what I call the internet, our inner connection with one another. those can be combined. We can learn and grow together. And it's not just an interesting theory. We've done it. We did this last year, completely online, with no in person. This year, we're doing it online and in person at the same time. So this is my summary of how modern breath work. Some people say, well, wasn't Stan Grof an innovator of breathwork? Absolutely. Stan Grof is a medical doctor who was working with altered states of consciousness, LSD, and therapy. And when that was forbidden, then he learned about the breath. Leonard Orr says he learned about it from him. Stan Grof says, I don't know that story, but I know that both of them have really advanced the cause of breathwork on our planet. And so can you. I invite you to join this. I called it the conspiracy of breathwork. It comes from the Latin con, meaning with, and spiritus, meaning breath. And so when people wanted to put their forces together to break traditions, they had a conspiracy. If it was secret, then of course no one was supposed to know about it. They just breathed together and conspired. But this is a public conspiracy. We are conspiring together to let the spirit of divine consciousness be awakened in every human being on the planet using the agency of breath. It's not just breath, it's conscious, connected breathing. So it's not just, well, everyone's breathing, so what's the big deal? We're bringing consciousness into breath, which wakes us up to, we are all divine spirits. We are all on this road home to the unity of the brothers and sisters that we all are in spirit. Please join us in this conspiracy. You can go as far as you want, or you can get bitten like me and have it be in every part of your life. I still use it every day before I go to bed. Actually, I use it when I get in bed. I use it before I get out of bed and after I get out of bed and during the day. Different times. Therapeutic breathwork is a toolbox. It's not one kind of breathing. It's a toolbox of slower than normal, and faster than normal techniques, and a roadmap for how to use the right breath, the right person at the right time. Okay, Mike, I told you, I warned you, you put a quarter in me, and I'll just keep going.
Jim, that was you've got a real gift for storytelling, and you kept me interested the whole time. So thank you so much for sharing that story, the evolution of modern breathwork. I didn't know almost any of that story. So yeah, a real gift. So thank you, Jim. I want to ask you a couple of quick questions, if that's all right, before we wrap up, because I think there's so much there. There's so much to unpack, and we may have to do another one of these another day and do some more. Wanted to ask, so you're talking about the breath work you do. So this is always really interesting to me. So what do you do when you get into bed? What sort of breathing are you doing, or when you wake up?
HeartMath has discovered what they call coherent breathing. And this is a lot of research has gone into this. It's bringing the wavelengths that the brain emits and the wavelengths that the heart emits. And the heart actually has a greater breadth of energy that's put out than the brain. You believe that? But the brain is usually what leads our life. Well, if you breathe at a rate of 5 seconds for inhale, 5 seconds for exhale, for 5 minutes, 3 times a day, for several weeks, you will actually change the coherence of your brain and your heart waves together. You bring them together. This is not, again, just a spiritual theory.
No.
They have tested this.
Yes.
And so I do this coherent breathing before I go to bed and after I wake up. I also do, like I said, I've studied techniques from India, Tibet, uh, um, China, doing a lot of Taoist research and things like this. Uh, and what the Taoists, for example, have discovered a long time ago is that if your inhale is shorter than your exhale,
Mm-hmm.
and you do that for a while, has a calming effect. So after I get in bed, I do an exercise. Now there's a typical one that is called the 4-7-8 breath. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. I do a rigorous one. I'm even a little cautious about saying this out loud because I field test things before I put it out. But let's just say I do one that expands on that, even a longer hold and a longer exhale. And whammo, calms me down. I am asleep.
Okay, so extending, so you do the 4 in, but then you really hold in the hold, and then you slow breathing. And when with the slow breath, are you using the mouth or the nose for the out breath?
I'm using this, most of the, what I call maintenance breathing, which is slower than normal breathing, is through the nose.
Yeah, okay.
People, I don't recommend people go around mouth breathing
Mm,
for health or anything. We only
mm,
use mouth breathing for certain faster than normal breathing techniques, which innervates the sympathetic nervous system to help us get into areas of trauma.
mm,
And we actually reprogram the right brain where trauma is stored, and it goes, and it's out of our consciousness. Because in trauma, and again, this is a whole other seminar we can go into. In trauma, what happens is um, the limbic system shuts down the pathways to the prefrontal cortex, is where we plan and think, and it goes into emergency mode. So the amygdala innervates the hypothalamus, and things that happen during trauma are often out of our consciousness. It goes into what's called implicit only memory. And in that implicit only memory, it's still there. We've categorized it. We don't want to walk around feeling terrified all the time. But all of a sudden, I see a man with a beard. Oh, Mike, you've got a beard. Oh, you know, I can't talk anymore. I've got, it's like, Jim, what's the problem? Well, it's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you triggered something in me about a man with a beard that perhaps abused me as a child, whatever that is. I'm just using that as an example. And
sure.
people have all sorts of um, idiosyncrasies, we might call them, in life. It's like, oh, I just can't eat that kind of food. Oh, I don't like those kind of people.
Mm,
Oh, can't be in that kind of a space.
yes.
And recognize there's a reason for all of these things.
Mm,
It's not that we have to know intellectually the reason for all of them, but what we can do is we can learn to reprogram with our breathing and our conscious intention, so those aren't triggers for us in our
oh,
life.
that's exciting. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, it's yeah, I've done some deep breathing. I've had some quite deep experiences and some big emotional releases. So I've got a little flavor of, I think, what it's about. But I'm still very, very much a white belt mentality. Jim, my last question for you is, I guess, for people that are watching this. So first of all, I'll put your links down below so people can very easily, if you're watching this now and you want to know more about the training that's coming up, or you want to get straight to Jim's website, you can just click on the YouTube link below. And also, Jim's got a fantastic YouTube channel, so make sure you go over there, you hit subscribe, and you follow his channel as well. But Jim, my question to you is, if someone's watching this right now, where would you direct them directly after this podcast finishes? Would you say go and do some breathing, read this book, check out this interview? Where's a good place for somebody to go that's interested now and wants to get deeper into this? Or maybe not where they go, but what would you recommend are the next steps for somebody here that's interested in this sort of thing we've been talking about, or you've been talking about?
Yeah, it's amazing the resources that we have at our disposal nowadays. I mean, and we're still guided. by our own inner spirit. So having that, you could go on the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance site and see, oh, here are breathworkers in various parts of the world. Here are schools in various parts of the world. Let me investigate this school because the websites are all there. You know, what does this one provide? No. Or you could just go on the internet and put on breathwork. But as I said, I'm of course going to say, well, start with someone that's, you know, been willing to say, we do this kind of training, we make it public, and we have ethical standards.
Mm.
I have a book called Breakthrough with Breathwork, but there's hundreds of good breathwork books out there. Again, some of those you can get on also the IBF, International Breathwork Foundation, has a list of breathworkers. And they also now are indicating those who have been certified through the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance. But again, they have breathwork schools and breathworkers around the world. So it's okay to start out with something that you know, something that has some organization. Other organizations are popping up to spread breathwork. Dan Brule has a new organization, which is, again, he's great in terms of getting schools to cooperate, practitioners to cooperate with one another. So there's lots of that information, and people just even email me and say, here's what my interests are. Or look at the GPBA website and say, okay, here's the emails of the elders, you know, and let's check out with them.
Wonderful.
But it's, you don't have to look far and wide to find it now, as in the days when we started.
Yeah, and the internet's a great tool, isn't it, for finding these people, like-minded people and experts in the field.
Actually, I will say this too. Since you asked, and you mentioned the YouTube channel, I have like over 300. I decided at some point, I got all these courses I've done for, you know, since the 1970s. I've put most of them, I've chopped them up and put them in YouTube videos. I have over 300 YouTube videos, but that's a maze to walk through. So it's like, oh, it's in playlists, Jim. So now I have playlists that you can go on. And if you're interested in just breathwork stuff, there is a playlist of all of the YouTube videos that will teach you the 100 breath technique, teach you the coherent breathing, teach you the circular breath, and meditations for breathing. And so that is imminently accessible right on Jim Morningstar YouTube channel under the Breathwork playlist.
There you go, guys. That's where you need to go next. Go to Jim's YouTube channel and check out the free resource that's there. Jim, I want to say a personal thank you for giving up your time and for telling us that story completely, because it's a fascinating story about the evolution of modern breath work, and it's been a real honor and pleasure to be a member of the audience, to sit here and listen to that story. So thank you so much for everything you've done and you continue to do, and I hope we'll be able to get you back on the podcast again at some point in the near future.
It would be totally my honor, Mike. Thank you for the work that you're doing. You are disseminating the seeds of this throughout the world, and that's really an important part of supporting the spirit of breath on our planet.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you, guys. Till next time. See you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye. Cheers.